Television figures, Monday was the third consecutive day where we reached more than 85 million Japanese. That's 2/3 of the population now watched some part of the game. So some very good fans and engagement, and that's what we will come on to later in this press conference. President is at Fukushima seeing the baseball. And he is at a competition tonight, which I can't remember, which I will find later. And let me then just quickly pass to Masa before I introduce our guests. As usual, open to all sorts of questions as every day, but we will be starting with a little section in a minute on digital and fan engagement. But Masa, do you want to give the testing results?
Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us as always. Just to quickly say a few things at this very beginning. First of all, we've seen those new urban sports during these games, and then yesterday we've seen the final of the surfing event. In addition to showing the urban cityscape of the Tokyo 2020 games for the past few days. In the meantime, we were able to demonstrate a rich geography of our country through this sport. So really pleased to see these new sports being rolled out. Trying to give you a quick update on the COVID situation. The number of total airport tests conducted was as of 26. It was more than 38,000. 30 positive cases were found, which means the positivity rate at the airport is 0.08%. And meanwhile, I wanted to mention that the total number of screening tests being conducted is more than 270,000 as of 26th of July, and then 57 positive cases were observed. The positivity rate is 0.02%. So that's pretty much everything at this very beginning. Mark.
Thank you very much indeed. So as I said yesterday, today we're going to have a short presentation about digital fan engagement and digital, which I think is very interesting, and it's a kind of a new area that we're really working very well on. In fact, just on the way in, was watching the swimming, and I saw the athletes actually engaging with their fans. A Brazilian swimmer engaging with his family and friends back home, which is obviously great in these kind of difficult times to provide those kind of opportunities. But I have with me someone who can tell you a lot more about it, or two people who can. So Yanis Exarchos, who is the CEO of OBS, the broadcasting arm of the Olympic movement, and also Chris Carroll, who's our Director of Digital and Marketing. So let me hand over to Yanis, and then we'll do some questions about that, and then obviously we'll go on to any other subjects that you wish to talk about. Yanis.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good morning to everybody, and I'm very happy today to be meeting again with you to speak about something which is a very new thing that we are doing, and I think it's quite important, and I have a strong belief that it's here to stay. If we go a few months back, when the announcement that there would be no foreign spectators was made, then we started thinking immediately from the point of view of broadcast, how can we provide more opportunities for international fans to actually make their presence, their engagement known. Then when we knew that there would be no spectators, the question became bigger. So we actually fast-tracked a few ideas that we had in mind for future games, and have to do with actually highlighting and bringing into the venue a sense of what is going on around the world during the Olympic Games. And what's going on is the massive engagement of billions of people. even with full venues, the amount of people, the number of people that you have in the venues is super important, but it's still a very small percentage of the actual number of people around the world who enjoy, who participate, who are filled with emotions for their favorite athletes. So how can we use technology to make this evident? And most importantly, how can we use technology to support the athletes in the context of these games? These are games of world unification. These are games also of human connection. Despite the difficult situation and the procedures and the measures, we need to highlight that the world is here, the world is watching, the world is engaged, the world is supporting the efforts of the athletes. So we have developed a few new tools. One of it is giving the opportunity to fans around the world to post their cheers of support for the athletes of their country, or the Olympic athletes in general, or athletes of a specific sport. We collect all that through our rights holding broadcasters, but also primarily through our own platform, Olympics.com and Tokyo 2020. And we do the same also with providing the opportunity to fans around the world to post and send us their own short self-videos of support and cheering. We're in the 5th, 6th days of the games, and I'm happy to say that we have already cheers who are more than 83 million as of this morning, coming from all countries of the world, supporting athletes of all 205 national Olympic committees who participate in the games across all sports. So the world is reacting, the world wants to engage, the world wants to make the presence known in the venues. The athletes should not feel that they are alone. They are supported by hundreds of millions of people around the world. An additional idea that we had was to create an opportunity through using digital technology for the athletes to have a sense of present and direct connection with the people who are very close to them, their families and their friends. We know very, very well that this factor is a hugely motivational factor, a very important psychological factor for the athletes. We all recall images from the Olympic Games of major achievements, gold medalists, who turn immediately after their achievements and they're looking for their beloved ones, you know, in the stands, or their parents or their friends, and they salute them. I think that we have probably seen an equal amount of images of Mike Phelps finishing a race in swimming and his mother, and that's very telling about the strong engagement and connection that athletes have with people close to them. Given the circumstances, they are not able to be physically here, but they're supporting the athletes. So what we have done is we have established in a number of venues for the final stages, for the final sessions, monitors whereby the athletes can connect with their families and their friends back home. As we progress into stages, into medal sessions, this keeps on catching fire, I would say. If you have been in swimming, in diving, taekwondo, you may have seen some images of athletes finishing their efforts and doing that. It's something that we feel the athletes start loving. Clearly, these initiatives were designed a little bit with the special circumstances in these games, the absence of spectators, but I'm sure that they will get a life of their own, and I'm sure that most of these new initiatives are here to stay in the next games. Perhaps it's better, instead of me speaking, if I share with you a short clip, a short video that shows you a little bit what it is about. If we can run the video.
Thanks, Yanis. That's impressive video. Let me now turn to Chris Carroll, as I say, Director of Digital and Marketing. Chris, you want to talk about, or you will talk about IOC platforms, digital platforms. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning to everyone. As we all know, and as Yanis has just referenced, one of the key impacts of the global health pandemic everywhere is how people are consuming sport and how they're interacting with athletes and stories and so forth. Results, performances has really increased through digital platforms. And to date, in the initial days of these Olympic Games, that's happened here as well. And what, by all indications we have, is showing that these games here in Tokyo 2020 is expected to be the most digitally engaged games ever for us. So I'd like to speak to some highlights of the initial 5 days and so forth. So on the IOC and our Tokyo digital platforms, our website and our mobile application, we're on record pace. To date, our traffic has exceeded 50 million people since the start of the games. That translates into double the traffic in comparison to the 2016 games in Rio. Additionally, the Olympics app has been trending in the 2 major global app stores in the top 10 during the Olympic Games. Additionally, as we go to social media, we are increasing engagement with the general public in all continents through social media. Our Olympic social media posts through the games to date has generated more than 2 billion engagements. One of the key ingredients to this is that we're operating in 9 different languages in order to tell the athlete stories and the Olympic story, Tokyo, here in local languages. Additionally, the engagement is fueling strong growth and engagement with the youth. And we've seen strong engagement to date with the youth of the world. Our Olympic content stronger than ever with a platform, TikTok, the Olympic Spirit Challenge that I think Mark referenced has now grown to 1.4 billion video views. Our Instagram following is over 12 times our average rate, which is translating into millions of increase. Importantly, telling the athlete stories through Olympics.com and the Tokyo website, as well as our social medias, the new sports have contributed to that to date. Skateboarding has been very successful, and on the peak activity of Sunday and Monday of that competition, around 1 million people engaged through Olympics.com traffic, web, and app. I'd like to highlight some geographic territories. Specifically, in our largest traffic is from the United States, India, and Japan to date. A good spread, including the home country. And Japan, led by an outstanding Super Sunday on the field of play, has spearheaded that and has really increased the positive digital engagement here in Japan. And the opening ceremony was very well received. In Australia as well, we've had very strong numbers. The sport-loving population of Australia, as well as their outstanding performances in the pool and the exciting announcement of Brisbane 2032 has led to a 17 times increase of traffic on the Olympics web and app. The United States, in terms of our web and app, we've got to date 20% more Americans visiting the Olympics web and app properties than we have had in previous games. In India, we have strong, more than double the number of users, and on our YouTube, we have 20 million views, which is 8 times more than we've had. So these are some of the indicators that are leading us to have a most successful engagement with the population about Olympic stories clearly around the world through our digital platforms. People want to hear not only the performances, but the journey of the athletes, the voice of the athletes, and we're best facilitating that not only in the venue, but also on our digital engagement.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, questions on that, OBS digital and digital engagement? If there are any, I would like to take them at the beginning because these gentlemen are obviously very busy, but also happy to talk to anyone afterwards who wishes to as well. So any questions on all those good news stories and engagement stories? Yep.
Mark, one moment.
Hello?
One moment, quickly. The translation seems to be not working right now. Can the team be able to fix out?
Ready?
Yeah, the team has to work on it, but yeah, we can proceed. But yeah, the thing is, yeah, the
That's
team
okay.
is working on it right now, so it will be fixed anytime soon, hopefully. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. Jenna Fryer, Associated Press. The digital numbers you mentioned, particularly the TikTok, I understand that some of these new sports are drawing some of this younger generation to it. What particularly are you focusing on to get people to come to the TikTok to Instagram? Is it live content? Is it funny content? And why do you think it is succeeding?
Thank you, Jane. I think it's Olympic content, and it's how we're engaging with the audiences is we're inviting them to express what's an Olympic in them, and basically providing an opportunity for them to express what Olympics means to them, which is uniquely some things different in other places and around the world a common theme. But specifically what we're doing is being able to provide the athletes stories and inspiration and a sense of a hope, which is what these games are all about. And it's clear around the world to date, the sentiment we're getting through our digital engagement as well as in the venue is these games really are fueling hope around the world. Given the context of the global health pandemic.
If I may add that it's important to note that these numbers and this engagement is on top of the number of engagement on the same handles that our rights-holding broadcasters are doing. Because ourselves, we're not using the coverage of the games. This is being used by the rights holders. So we are telling, in addition to that, stories around the athletes, telling the atmosphere of the games. So if we want to have a total look of the impact of the games, a digital footprint, we need to take these two things together. And one, of course, supports the other. People are watching there, they're getting more stories here, they get stories here, and they go and watch. And this is what I think is important. So this is important to keep in mind. These are just figures without the rights of the content, without the production. You have to add all the components from the rights holding broadcasters.
Clearly the new sports, as you referenced, and early in the Olympic Games, we've had skateboarding, we've had surfing, and 3-on-3 basketball to date. That's helped. That's fresh, that's exciting, and that's engaged with global audiences, specifically in the United States, specifically in Brazil, and specifically here in Japan, is what our numbers are around those new sports.
And just so I'm clear, it's the rights holders' content and the IOC's content. It's not content from the athletes directly?
This is mostly the rights holders. They use the rights, so all the images of the coverage of the games and anything else that they produce in addition. And we are primarily telling the story of the athletes, but without having, obviously, the right to use images from the games, because the rights are with the rights holders. But I would say, and I think Chris can talk to you for hours on that, the stories that we're telling are athlete-centric. It's everything around the athletes, their environment, their stories. This is what we're telling. We're not telling the story of the institution. We're telling the story of every single athlete in the games from every country.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Wakako. And gentleman there, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Wakako Yuki from the Yomiuri Shimbun. Hello, Yanis. Nice to see you. Two questions, I suppose, to you. You've always talked about Olympic spirit. Without that, there is no feeling, no touching moment conveyed through any digital platform. And of course, you've cited Michael Phelps going up to his mum and hugging, and that was moving, memorable scene. We don't have that here. Athletes, although it's fantastic actually to see that screen and all cheering for them, there is no context, there is no humane actually spirit exchange. What is the thing that digital platform can do in this dimension? And you talked about a future, how you would like to convey this, if I may say so, trial at the Olympic Games into the future.
Thank you, and obviously very, very happy to see you too. This is a fundamental question. Human connection cannot replicate it digitally. I think we need to be honest between ourselves. And there's something about human connection that, I'm a lover of technology, but there is so much that technology can do. And yes, it is about all these emotions and all this special feeling. One thing that I have started noticing already is that actually athletes themselves have started by themselves overcompensating. Let me give you one simple example. You had yesterday the situation with Simone Biles, obviously one of the greatest athletes in the world. She had a difficult moment herself. She stayed there to support her team. She stayed there to support her team. A big part of the story of the coverage of gymnastics yesterday eventually became that, and I think very naturally everybody started focusing on that. You have, a huge star in sports that had a problem herself in continuing the performance, and what she elected to do was stay there and support the team. I think that it's very difficult to have a more Olympic moment than that. And probably that speaks volumes about the sport and the game, much more than the actual competition itself. So it is a little bit also for us in media to recognize and be sensitive about these moments that really tell the story of Olympic values in a way which sometimes is more telling and resonant than competition itself. This is one thing. The second is that with all these digital engagement tools, I think that we need to learn a lot, and we have learned already from the first 4 or 5 days of the games what is the appropriate measure, how much you can do, and what is the important thing. I would like to see most of this happening, but what I think is the big opportunity here is really to use technology to highlight and emphasize what has actually been going on, and you don't physically see it, which is the fact that in major sport events today, yes, you have the field stadium, but you have hundreds of millions of people around the world who are not simply watching, they are engaged, they have emotions, they want to do something, they want to share, they want to post a comment, they want to watch with their friends, they want to connect, to create a human network. I think if we can represent that into the venues, we create a more realistic, actually, ambience for the athletes of what's going on actually out there. Most of the venues, sporting venues, follow the same concept from the Roman times. You know, they're big arenas. But now we know that there's so much more going on beyond the physical presence of people. We will always miss if we don't physical presence. But we can do so much more to show the actual connection that is going on.
Chris, I think you wanted to...
Yes, I'd like to build what Yannis said about the Olympic spirit and how we're bringing that through our digital platforms. Clearly, we're trying to highlight, and what you see is the theme that's emerged here in Tokyo. And you saw it several places in the last 48 hours. You saw it at the skateboarding park. Whether you won a medal or you didn't win a medal, whether you fell or you didn't fall, the look, the visual connection between the competitors with each other, we are featuring and highlighting. The embrace last evening in Yokohama of the United States softball coach with the Japanese coach, and the emotions while respecting the physical and social distancing guidelines and so forth, we are featuring on that. The emotions that come out from Bermuda winning a gold in the triathlon in the last days. This is part of what we're trying to communicate, because what's clear in our engagement activities through all our digital platforms and with our partners, and what you see through our venue engagement program, is the athletes are united in their journey here. They face similar challenges, and here in Tokyo, they're uniting. And we're trying to bring that to the world through our digital platforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Next question.
Thank you, Hiroki Tora from Asahi Shimbun. Question to Yannis or Chris. Could you give us more figures on, like, by age or by sport, how much people were engaged, and what kind of reactions from the athletes about the cheering and the self videos that the 205 countries made? Thank you.
Let me start with the first. First of all, on the fan engagement in the venues, the reactions in the venues, as I said, we have reactions actually coming from all over the world, but probably it's worthwhile mentioning that the 5 countries with more reactions is number 1, it's India. Second is Australia, United States, China, and Japan. So the diversity is very, very big, obviously. All of them big countries or big sporting countries in the case of Australia. Chris may give you some information about the specific demographics, because through our data, through our digital platforms, we have we have forensic information now, and we know. What I can tell you is the pickup from the athletes moment. This is an initiative that we organized essentially in the last weeks leading up to the game. So we're still communicating to the athletes. What I can tell you is from the athletes who saw it and we started doing it, they are super excited. So we want them to use. I don't know how much we can do it, because there are technical limitations about how much we can do it, but they absolutely adore it, adore the moment. Chris?
Thank you, Yannis. In terms of specifics regarding around sport or audiences, I remind everyone we're not even halfway yet through these Olympic Games, so we'll be compiling. But if you look at, as we go, if you look at skateboarding and so forth, we had over 700,000 youth under 20 years old engaging with our platform just on Monday around skateboarding. I highlight that and so forth. So that's one example. There are some common stories. It's not just skateboarding with youth. We have a 46-year-old gymnast that's competed at these games, as you know. That's been a universal point of connection, regardless of your age, and that has performed extremely as well at these games. And as we go through these games, we can bring more detail that are specific to age as well as by sport. We have all that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I would say that the athlete has given Yanis and I some hope still for the future. Yeah, question here. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for your time. Kurumi Mori, Bloomberg News. So we talked a lot about social media and digital, and of course there are a lot of positive benefits to having that be front and center here, but we can't ignore mental health of these athletes. We've heard time and time again, Simone, we saw with her yesterday, although she made that decision, there was stuff on social media that was negative. We also saw Naomi Osaka after the match yesterday questioning why she didn't stay for the long presser in the media line outside the stadium. Are you cognizant of the negative impacts as well? Are there any sort of measures that you're thinking of to protect these athletes and their mental health? Thank you.
I can take the specific measures, but if you want to talk about the actual social, I can take the specific measures. I mean, obviously, athlete mental health in general has been a big issue for quite a few years now, and it's really coming to the fore. And the IOC has been actually working on it for some time and has had some toolkits, webinars and so on for a while. That became more urgent with, obviously with the COVID pandemic, so we've been working on that quite a lot. There is, in the village, on top of all the psychologists and so on that we have there, there is also a helpline in 70 languages, which will keep going after the games. I know that at the last two athlete commission members meetings in Lausanne, the forums, which had all of the representatives, those both in 2019 and 2021, that was one of the key moments of discussion. We have toolkits that are available on our website for NOCs, IFs, and all those people, and the athletes as well. So I could actually read them out for you, but there's 4 or 5 different ones. And as I say, we've been having a series of webinars over the last year, I think it is maybe even longer, where we've been actually talking to all those people responsible for that. We have safeguarding officer, we have people, as I say, in the village. So for us, yeah, as with everyone in all areas of life, it's an incredibly important issue, and one that's really finally come to the fore. Are we doing enough? I hope so, I think so. But like everyone in the world, we can do more on this issue, and we are, and we're really supporting the athletes in this. Just to check, if there are any more questions on digital and OBS, then I will let our 2 guests go. Thank you very much. As I say, if you want to talk to them separately, I'm sure it can briefly be arranged. Oh, is there a question on digital? Oh, no, okay. So thank you very much, Yanis. Thank you, Chris. And
you all have a great games.
Yeah.
Thank you.
By the way, I should also add that we had already planned to have a session on mental health tomorrow. We will have Kirsty Coventry will be coming along to tell you. We have Athlete 365, which is a special website for the athletes where there's a huge number of resources on mental health. So she will be here tomorrow, and as a gold medalist in swimming, she can tell you also maybe what it was like competing in the days when this wasn't kind of really recognized as it should have been, I think, possibly throughout society. So let's have a question over here from Reuters. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Carlos Kruma from Reuters. A question on the withdrawal of Biles, obviously. Do you have a comment on what occurred yesterday, and also what it means for the Games when such a big event happens, especially in one sport, and what the impact might be for the rest of the Games? Thank you.
I think only on that, I'm not going to add to the speculation. I've seen many stories. I don't think it's up to me, and I certainly wouldn't want to discuss what I think happened or what various views are. I'm not really the person to talk to on that. I think what we can all say is that regardless of that, we all have huge respect for her and huge support for her. I wouldn't really want to add much more, and I don't think it's my position to do that at this moment. So yeah, we can have Hayo, and then we'll have a lady there, and then Steve, I think it is, I can see. Yeah.
Mark Hayusep, German television. I have two questions. The first one, let's not talk about quantity, emotions, and PR, maybe more about content and quality of the coverage of the games. We fully understand there are restrictions in place due to the coronavirus which are justified, but do you really think that all the countermeasures for journalists against corona are justified, since this is a massive and, from my understanding, hard restriction for independent and free coverage of the games and the surrounding circumstances? First question, and then I have another one. Yeah, can I ask a second question too? Okay, second question is, international athletes have told us that they have been told by IOC staff or administration or officials that they shouldn't talk to ARD German television because ARD are the enemies of Thomas Bach and the IOC. Can you comment on that?
On the first question, yeah, I mean, we are all, as you know, living in very, very difficult times, and you will know from the testing that we've all had before we leave to on arrival, the athletes in the village particularly under a great deal of stress with, I think, now more than 300,000 tests. It's very difficult. We have to give confidence to the local population, and I think we are with the amount of work we're doing and with distancing and so on. Is it difficult? Is it hard for us all? Yes, it is. And I can only apologise for that. It's not easy for us either, but I think what we are delivering for the world at these games is something that is really, really important. It is a light at the end of the tunnel. It is bringing us together as an organisation, as a world. I think it's bringing us together, and I think that is something that shouldn't be underestimated. So I can only apologise to you personally, Hayo, if you're feeling that this is difficult. I know that that is the case for a lot of stakeholders here, and the athletes even probably more so. So very many apologies. On your ARD question, I'm sorry, we don't really have time to be singling out one organisation for that. Your German TV, we wouldn't really do that. That's not really our style. But interesting question. Yes, lady there.
Sorry, Mari Saito from Reuters. Tokyo reported record COVID numbers. I understand that the Olympic bubble is separate, and I'm sure the assumption is that it's holding. But I'm wondering if there's any concern at all, this is a question for Mr. Takaya as well as Mr. Adams, if there's any concern at all about change in public perception or sentiment or support for the games given the record numbers. I have another question after that.
First question, sorry, how are you finished there, or do you want another? Okay, fine. By the way, I would just, obviously, to answer your question earlier, you got the third question, so it would be a bit bizarre if we were somehow boycotting ARD to not ask you to the microphone. By all means, come tomorrow, we'll let you ask a question again. On the perception of how these games are, I think it's very, very important with the Japanese public that we reassure them, and I'm sorry for those that have been here for many of the press conferences for me to go over this again, but you know about the amazing level of testing and the fact that, in fact, to a large extent, there is really no contact between the general public and the games organisers on a day-to-day basis. It's very important. And our level of infection, as you've seen, I think is 0.02 or 0.03, maybe more. This is not something that we're happy about. We need to keep working. But as the Director General of the WHO said the other day, it's not actually about necessarily the level of infection, but what you're doing. And you'll have seen with all the measures we're taking, it is important. What I would add, however, is that the question of masks is still very, very important, particularly, I think, for perception. And that's why, we've had a number of questions on that, and I've made it very clear that this is not a nice to have, this is a must have. All those rules are being communicated to all the groups, the NOCs, the IFs, in the venues, and the great volunteers as well. There are regular announcements at venues now, and continual breaches by individuals or groups will be announced, and that will be followed up. But I also wanted to emphasise, as I did yesterday, that I think all of us, including myself, have a responsibility to comply with the playbooks. We've all been kind of asked to contribute to safety. And if you see either here, I think actually the media are doing a pretty good job actually of complying, but I have seen cases here as well, I'm afraid, but in the venues, if you see people, please help us and ask people to comply with that, because it's very important. I think even it's maybe even more important because of the image that it sends. And if you're unsuccessful, please inform a member of the IOC, please inform Tokyo 2020, please inform the International Federation, and we will follow up with the CLO. So I'm kind of repeating that, and if people don't comply with that in the end, then we will seek them out individually and make it clear that this is not acceptable. That is the stage that we're at. I think what should give people a real measure of confidence in the general population is that all the amazing measures that are being taken, and I repeat once more that particularly the village is the most tested community anywhere in the whole world. The testing is now, I think probably we are at 300,000, 350,000 tests. I'm tested every single day. The IOC is approaching 100% immune. The athletes, we think it's about probably 85% in the village. Media, from what we can gather, is about 70%. Those double vaccination rates compare very, very favourably with many, many other situations in many, many other countries around us. Second question.
And then just to follow up, a separate question, and maybe Mr. Takaya could answer this one.
Now that's my fault for talking too much. Masa, I know you probably would want to say something, so I apologise about that to both of you.
No, I believe you covered pretty much everything, but what I want to add is that obviously there has been always a mixed feeling towards hosting the games for the past year. There has been uncertainty in this society, so it's natural to see such a mixed feeling. But in the meantime, we have been able to observe that people are trying to support these games, like the road events I mentioned yesterday. Yes, we saw certain number of people along the road race events, but in the meantime, we could have accommodated 2 million people, 3 million people on those road events, another million possibly on triathlon events. But the number of people were not that level, which means such a large number of people were are trying to stay in their homes to watch the events by TVs, trying to support these events. That's a firm evidence that there has been a goodwill growing up among the general public to make these games very successful. So I just wanted to compliment that.
And then just one more question.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's been some reporting in domestic media about food waste. I'm sure the games are supposed to be extremely sustainable, but there's thousands of lunch boxes and meals that are being discarded because they were supposed to be for volunteers. I know Mr. Takaya has commented on this again, so I apologize to ask, but do you have any fresh comments about that? And any ideas to mitigate this issue? Thank you.
Yes, I can provide you the updated information. So Tokyo 2020 can confirm that there has been a surplus of food at various venues across all the venues, particularly on the day of the opening ceremony at the Olympic Stadium. The large number of staff on duty meant that order volumes were large and a lot of the food was not consumed. One reason for the surplus was that many, one moment, we consider that obviously compared to the amount we ordered to their suppliers, there has been quite a large volume workload for the staff members, so they were not able to consume. That was one reason for the food loss. What I want to tell you is that from this week, measures to optimize the volume of orders are being implemented in each venue. We regret the large amount of over-ordering that has occurred until now. But please note, surplus food is not disposed, but recycled into animal feed and biogases.
Thank you very much, Steve. Yeah, Steve Wade from AP.
Hi, Mark. Stephen Wade from Associated Press. As you're probably aware, there was a congressional hearing yesterday in the United States in which three of your sponsors, your top sponsors, Intel, Airbnb, and Coca-Cola, were called to testify and basically ask, are they going to be complicit going to the 2022 Beijing Olympics? One of the top sponsors, Intel, said, and I'm not quoting, but he said, yes, there's genocide taking place in China. So the question for you is, what more responsibility does the IOC have to make sure that sponsors and athletes don't become complicit in these widely reported games where genocide and human rights abuses are being widely reported?
Sorry, is that a direct quote? Or?
No, it's not, but it's from the Intel Executive Vice President, their counsel. He acknowledged that genocide is taking place in China when asked.
So obviously the Olympic Games is about sport and bringing the world together and we're about building bridges, about engagement. And in fact, it's the only event that brings the world together in peaceful competition. As you know, that's very important. Given the diverse participation in the Olympic Games, the IOC has to remain neutral. That's clear. And we have had, as you know, support from for the Games from the G7 recently, from the G20, from the United Nations. These are representatives of the global community, and we respect that. And I would refer you, actually, I have here a joint quote from you, the EU High Representative, and the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, Joseph Borrell, Antony Blinken. They acknowledge a shared understanding that relations with China are multifaceted, comprising elements of cooperation, competition, and rivalry. And it goes on to say, areas for constructive engagement with China exist, such as climate change, and we would say...
The question is, what more responsibility do you have to make sure that your sponsors and your athletes don't become complicit in what is reported as a genocide? What responsibility do you have?
I'll try and answer that if you let me. So I think what I tried to say, if hopefully I made it clear, was that our responsibility is to deliver the Games, which are an amazing thing for the world. That is our responsibility. It is the responsibility of others, the United Nations, who are very supportive of the Olympic Games, and governments to deal with this, and not for us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, lady there.
Hi, thank you. This is Aya Tomasa from Bloomberg. So before the Olympics started, there has been opinion polls showing that there's negative sentiment about holding the games under the pandemic. But this is a question for Mr. Takaya. Is Tokyo 2020 feeling a sentiment is being recovered after Japan won 10 medals, gold medals? And I have another question about heat waves. So are you planning to put in additional measures such as trying to move like tennis tournament time later, or something about the Hokkaido Marathon? Thank you.
I think I will have to deliver the similar comment that I have just mentioned. We are of course aware that there has been a mixed feeling towards the games for the past year. It's been a long time, but in the meantime, we also believe that a certain number of people have been always very supportive in terms of hosting the games, and then there is also another amount of the certain number of people who have been a very mixed feeling. Either we want to support the games, or we may be against the games. So given that situation, obviously the current situation that the game is taking place in a safe and secure manner helps people's perception towards that. We want to show more support towards the games. I think thanks to your, everyone's effort, we've been able to convey that, we are the most tested community. I think we are gaining even more perception that the organizers are delivering the games in safe and secure manner. Of course, the athletes' performance are helping. They're modifying their public perception, but in the meantime, we are not saying that we are being released from that big responsibility. We need to keep conveying that we are absolutely committed delivering the safe and secure games.
I just found my notes on heat countermeasures. We did discuss it, I think, towards the beginning of the week. But as you know, a whole range of measures have been taken in cooperation between the IOC, the international federations, and Tokyo 2020. The biggest one is obviously moving the marathon and race walk to Sapporo, which we took that decision. It's 800 meters further north than here and cooler. But other things include 5,000 meters athletics is an evening session, not a morning session. Rugby, all morning games scheduled to finish before midday. Cycling, mountain bike starts delayed till 3 p.m. Equestrian triathlon events moved, as you've seen with triathlon, to the early morning. There are all sorts of other physical measures in terms of water sprays and so on. A lot of thought has gone into this. And even, I was very excited to hear that I think tennis judges have got cooling underbody armour that cools them down when they're sitting at the... really, really a lot of ingenious solutions to this, allowing the events to go ahead as they have done, and I think so far there's been a few small minor issues, but so far things seem to be going very well indeed. Another question. Liam Morgan, and then go for a lady here.
Hi Mark, Liam Morgan from Inside the Games. Just quickly on the COVID-19 update provided today, there's 2 cases that have been struck off the list. I presume they are false positives. And just generally on the COVID situation, you've spoken a lot about WHO and the 0.02, whatever figure it is, without really expressing any sympathy for the athletes who have tested positive here and have been ruled out for their competition. What can you tell them? These athletes who've trained for years and now their Olympic dream is over. Thank you.
You're absolutely right. Huge respect for them, and it kind of goes to the question earlier that Hayo was asking about the measures that we're all under. It is terrible, and if I hadn't expressed already sympathy, I have done, but obviously maybe not here. But of course, we have huge sympathy with anybody who's trained all that time. All the more reason why these games. It was so important to get them to go ahead. You know as well as I do that 60% of Olympic athletes get one chance to compete. And you're right, and I totally agree with you that we had to do everything we can to have these games, because had we not, those 60%, it wouldn't have just been the terrible cases of people who are proving positive, which is terrible enough. But if these games hadn't gone ahead, and we thank everyone for their support in helping us to bring them off, if they hadn't gone ahead, then those 60% of these athletes here, 6,000, would not have had their moment to shine. Unfortunately, it's a small number, but I think you'll agree that unfortunately, because of the health measures and the pandemic we're under, there are all sorts of very difficult situations at the moment. Yeah. Sorry, Masa.
Yeah, so Liam, you're talking about the 2 cases which has been removed from the list, right? Yeah, sorry. I think I need to explain that. So the number 137 recorded yesterday, it seems like there has been mistakenly recorded by the CLO as a positive case, so we confirmed that we should remove that from the list. So in the end, that concerned person was negative at all. On the number 151, I believe. Yeah, this case was I think I have the statement here. The team doctor confirmed that the infection was first detected in early July. It was thought that the athlete would continue to test positive even after remission. So the result advisory expert group decided to treat it as a past infection if there were no symptoms, and the negative PCR test was confirmed the following day. A negative result was confirmed on July 27th, and the athlete's name was accordingly removed from the list.
Thank you very much. Let's take maybe 2 more questions. Yes, there, and gentleman at the back there.
「共同通信の長谷川と申します。日本語でお尋ねします。2点あります。1点は先ほど似たような質問があったんですが、ちょっと改めてお伺いしたいんですが、昨日東京都内のコロナの感染者数が過去最多の2848人になりました。で主催者側としてですね、
So now,
この都内の感染者数の増加とオリンピックの開催というのは無関係だというふうに思われますでしょうか。それが1点目です。2点目がですね、今回の大会で使う輸送のバスの台数がちょっと足りないのではないかというような話があるのですが、おそらくそのフィジカルディスタンスを確保して乗っていただくとなると、より多くのバスが必要になるというような状況ではないかと思われるのですが、この状況について現時点どういうふうに把握していてどう対応しているのか教えてください。What is the situation and what kind of measures are you taking? That's my question.
Let me start off with the first one, and maybe Masa wants to add in. I mean, I don't want to kind of continue to repeat the answers, but clearly the separation between those involved in the Olympics and the general population is very intense, and there really isn't a great deal of contact. There is social distancing going on, obviously, double vaccination. I won't go through the figures again. You heard how high they are, and of course it won't have escaped your notice that there are no spectators. So, and the level of infection amongst the Olympic community is very, very, very small. I think I probably will stop there because I don't want to repeat the same points again. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, maybe what I'm saying is very close to what is mentioned, but the number of the positive cases in Tokyo is, of course, I am aware of that because I am a citizen, and also, yes, I feel sorry as an organizer to see the positive case increasing, but the relationship between the increasing number of the positive case in Tokyo and the Tokyo Olympic Games, I think that is something which the expert is investigating. So what we'd like to say is, as Mark mentioned, well, for all the people who are involved in this game is already conducting a lot of testing, and just like you are taking, yes, by going through all those testing, we are saying that most tested community So I guess we have repeatedly conducting a test for all those people who are involved in the game, and also we are restricting the activities of the people involved. And also thanks to your support, I think the number of the positive case amongst the community is at this level, which is really, really low. So I hope we would like to deliver safe and secure games for other stakeholders as well as for the citizens in Tokyo. We want to continue hosting, and we want to make the commitment to keep hosting these safe and secure games till the end of the game.
I think on transport, just to say that is raised every morning at the coordination meeting. I realise that transport is incredibly important. There are more buses have come on, some more are coming, I think, tomorrow, and that is being worked on. But we do get that one. We do know that's important. Masa, do you want to add to that?
輸送に関して諸課題があるという事情はもちろん理解をしております。今マークがメンションした通りです。輸送チームも今最大限事態の改善に努めている。
Doing their best to improve the situation. For instance, we now added the extra buses or standby buses so that on demand we will be able to operate those buses as it is required. So yes, toward the end or mid-end, toward the end of the games, we want to really keep improving the situation.
I had one last question. I can't remember who I was pointing to, but if that's finished, then we'll have the gentleman here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hiroshi Hiyama, AFP. Just quickly, two questions. Nobody tested positive from the media center? It's the question number one. The question number two is about the mental health issues. Apologies to go back to that issue again. Simone Biles or Naomi Osaka may have a team of experts to help them, but it's the people who are not Simone Biles or Naomi Osaka may not have that resources available. Is there, what are the type of things, new things, and obviously all the athletes are coming out from the COVID restrictions, and that it's been a very, very difficult year for them to train, and the pressure may be higher. Is there any recognition on the part of IOC that they are under more stress than the usual Olympics, for example, and what are the type of extra resources or the programs that are not available during the previous editions, but that are available now? And then are you able to push those assistance to the athletes rather than wait for them to come to seek it? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I gave quite a long, detailed answer about all the resources, all the extra resources, and how actually COVID-19 had meant that this was more important than ever, that athletes may not be superstar athletes, but there is a resource of psychologists available in the village. There is a helpline in 70 languages for the athletes. There is Athlete 365 with all the details on there. We've been having seminars with all the people involved so that they can be aware of the issue. There's a huge amount of work being done. We don't underestimate how much more needs to be done, and we continue to work on that. But I would reassure you at least that we have been for some time before COVID aware, and now, yes, even more so. And sorry, the first question. Yeah, no, there's extra stuff now. So we have. I can give you a full briefing if you want offline. But we have a whole range of. We've been having a whole range of seminars, and there are now toolkits on all various issues. Anyway, actually tomorrow, if you are interested, as I say, we have Kirsty Coventry here, gold medalist, who can talk about, and the athletes representative who can talk about all the work we've been doing. It was discussed at great length in the athlete forums that we had 2019, 2021. So for us, it's not a new problem. It's something we've been dealing with, and we realise that athletes, in any case, are under enormous pressure. And I think that COVID situation has made it more difficult for all of us, but for the athletes in particular. And sorry, the second question was? Yeah.
IBC MPC? Either IBC or MPC. among those positive cases, as you can see on the list, there are a certain number of people who are considered as media, and they have access to IBC or IPC. But what I can tell you is that all those positive cases have been isolated straight after, and then we quickly move to identify cross-contact cases, and if there are cross-contact cases, and they are requested to be isolated as well. So we are following the protocol in this regard.
And so just to finish, Hayo, I managed just to check during the press conference, so just so your mind is put at rest, so you don't feel that we're ignoring you, ARD has had 3 interviews since March, which actually is more than I think any other organisation. So I think maybe other organisations would like to have as many, but thank you.
This was not my question. I asked if international athletes have been asked.
The answer is no. The answer
okay, but
is no
this
to
is a
that.
completely different answer you give here. I don't talk about what happened before.
So the answer to that is no, and we talked to ARD.
Don't distract from my question.
No,
this is a totally different subject.
Just trying to make sure that everyone knows that we talk to ARD as much, if not more, than any other organisation.
This is another subject. I talk about international athletes.
The answer to that is no. Thank you very much. See you all tomorrow. And as I say, we have Kirsty Young with us. Kirsty Coventry with us tomorrow, joining me on the podium. We'll talk about mental health, but of course we can talk about all other athlete issues as well. Masa, thank you very much, and thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day.
はいはいはい。あ、じゃあちょっともしフォローアップの質問があったらちょっと残っていただいて。